So it's like going to the office the next day. I go, we were on MTV. And Kurt Lauder says, he goes through a couple of news snippets, and then all of a sudden he picks up this issue of Hot Rod Magazine with ZZ Top on the cover.
Awesome.
And goes, the guys from ZZ Top have a car on the cover of Hot Rod Magazine. And I'm like scurrying to try and get a
picture?
Date us again, a VHS in the machine to record this thing, right? And I missed it. I totally missed it because the one I picked already had a little piece of tape over it, so it wouldn't record. And I was like,
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I have no idea about this technology.
Yes, okay. Yeah, it's ancient technology. Right after audio cassettes, right? Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories. So we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP. I build lots of engines as part of the stuff that I do, and I use them exclusively because they're fantastic. I don't use stock bolts because it's just so dangerous. So especially engine stuff is really, really good. Steve, you use them for building cars, right?
Yeah, I need them. They're an insurance policy for its internals on an engine. I know it's long-lasting and durable and done. They're properly engineered. And also, it makes everything we do look even better. It's jewelry for your car.
Right.
I was going to say the same thing. This stuff looks so beautiful coming out of the package. I mean, it's all oiled and it's ready to go. I mean, sometimes you just like want one on your desk that you can like look at and play with, that kind of thing. But I've used them all the time, and I use them in a lot of racing stuff.
So check them out at arp-bolts.com or check out their catalog. You'll find everything you're looking for. Just three friends just hanging out, talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. And I thought what we would talk about today was the adventure of the Cadzilla cover. Because that was
what is that?
Well, okay, so we
who
have
is
to
he?
tell
Who is he and
Cadzilla
why
is.
is he?
So I was the editor of Hot Rod Magazine. Boyd Coddington was building Cadzilla. All you have to do is just Google that.
For
if you
the
don't,
coolest dude in the world, Billy Gibbons.
Yeah. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. And they built this
my host on my TV show.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
And so Boyd Coddington started out with a 48 Cadillac sedanette and created
the coolest car ever.
Oh, I mean,
I hit the table.
As a custom car, it's certainly among the top 10 ever custom cars ever.
My favorite.
So a spectacular car, but a custom. So this is 1991 maybe, somewhere in there.
That's probably a good bet.
Yeah. I guess I should have been professional and looked it up. But
which time with Hot Rod was that?
It's before that.
Which time with Hot Rod was that?
What was that?
You were editor of Hot Rod.
I was editor of Hot Rod
There you
Magazine,
go. Okay,
so
there
I
you
was
go.
editor from 87 to 93. So it would be in that range somewhere,
Yeah,
probably around 1990.
No. It's I'm seeing the cover in my
88?
head, but best of. Yeah, it's 87 or 88.
It's 88.
Okay.
It's 88.
Because I
so,
went to Carcraft in 87.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
there
So
you go.
yes. So anyway, so 89. Thank you very much.
It was 89?
It was 1989.
From the research department.
From the research department. The instantaneous.
I wish the guy at the
research
camera could
department.
swing around to see the research department.
Thousands of them
checker.
back there.
It's a guy on a
Thousands of them.
phone,
It's the fact checker.
but behind him is a sandblast cabinet.
So we had Boyd had finished the car. It is really a deep purple. It looks black. It
No, it's a
photographs
deep
black,
purple,
but it is a deep purple, and it is this spectacular shape.
Oh.
So the car literally was the most interesting part of the car was the rear of the car. So Randy had done a
slope back
complete
all the way to the
feature,
back, yep.
which is a whole nother story on how he did all that, because he did it in a studio, but it looked like it was in this cavern or a subway or something. It was really the backdrop illustration was from Spaceballs.
Yes.
He told me that story. So he rented this backdrop, which had this converging lines, looked like a sewer actually, and then he had flaming gas cans and all
the
trash cans.
centerfold, wasn't the centerfold, that was also that
That
set?
was the centerfold. That was the same set. Yes. So he shot the cover and the same set he did the centerfold. So we did a centerfold. So we get all this stuff. This is the most spectacular car. We've been building this thing up for probably a year and a half, 2 years.
Following along with it.
Following along with it. Gray Baskerville had been doing all this series of articles on the story. It was
Mr.
spectacular.
Flip-Flops. Yeah.
And so it got to the point where, and if you don't understand magazine publishing, you would think, well, the editor just picks the cover and it runs, and he makes the decision and life is good. No. So especially with Hot Rod Magazine, because Motor Trend and Hot Rod were the two biggest, still are. Well, the only ones that are left now from what was the old Petersen, but
they have the off-road
those are the
magazine
two
now, right.
big magazines. Hot Rod started in 1948. Motor Trend started in 49 or 50.
49 or 50.
Couple
somewhere
years
in there.
later.
Yeah.
And so normally we would pick a cover and it would go through the channels, and we never heard back, which meant, if there's nobody questioned it, everybody's happy.
Go ahead, you're fine.
And all of a sudden I was called up to the seventh floor, to the top of the building and I get there with my publisher Harry Hibbler and John Dyna, who was their group publisher, and it's a big long rectangular table like this one, and there's like 10 people in the room. It's like, uh-oh. This is not normal.
That's a big audience for that.
It's a big audience.
Yes, absolutely.
And the president of the company's there, Fred Waingro.
That's right.
Mr. Peterson's not there because he was never in these
Was
meetings.
the polar bear there?
The polar bear was... he shot a polar bear. Mr. Petersen shot a polar bear with a .45 automatic.
From a helicopter.
From a helicopter. and they stuffed it and put it in this big plastic case. And it was supposed to be... You ever heard this story?
Oh, yeah, I heard this
We'll
story.
spin off of this thing real quick. This polar bear was like, what? He's like 8 feet
It was
tall.
stuffed. It was
he's stuffed. And he's
taxidermy
like,
there.
like this,
That's
right? And when they moved from the old building to 8490 Sunset, which was Sunset in La Cienega,
Correct.
They were supposed to put the bear on the first floor.
Correct.
In the foyer as you came
Correct.
in the front door.
Because that's friendly.
Yes. But a prankster who will remain unnamed, he's since passed away.
You can name him.
Well, Tom Medley.
There you go.
So Tom Medley.
Who was
they just
Stroker
put-
McGurk. That was the
Stoker
guy
McGurk,
for that.
The guy who created Stoker McGurk.
Yeah.
And he put there was a sticker on where everything was supposed to go, what floor it was supposed to go on. So the bear had a sticker on it that said first floor, right?
Right.
Well, he took it off and put the 7th floor. So Petersen shows up. And they did the whole move over the weekend. So
Yeah.
he shows up.
And the polar
rolls
bear is on
in,
the 7th floor.
Rolls into the foyer.
Says, "Where's my bear?"
Where's my bear? It's like, well, okay, they probably just didn't get around to it yet. It's no big deal. Punches the 7th floor, goes up 7th floor.
there he
the
is.
elevator door opens, and there's the bear going, on the 7th
right.
floor. The hell is the bear doing up here?
They put it in the
and then they
elevator.
had
They
to
had to
charge
do
him extra because they had to disassemble
The bear?
No, not the bear. Had to disassemble the elevator.
bear didn't unscrew.
to get the bear up there because it was so
Awesome.
huge.
Yeah.
And they
Perfect.
charged him like an extra $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it was,
That's
to
right.
move it, But then once it's up there, he stayed there because.
right.
Perma
So I
bear.
would take my kids up to the the 7th floor and say, "Here, watch this," and they're like, "There's this door." They're like, "Whoa."
I tried to get the antlers in the elevator one time. They don't fit. That was on Hunting. Hunting was on 6. I
We
tried
could
to
do
get them
another
up there.
story on
That's right.
elevators at the 8490 building. The night I got stuck in the elevator, was there
when I
for
was at
2.5
Argus.
hours. Had to crawl out.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Or the-
Yeah. So the elevator stuck in between the floors, and I could pry the doors open, right? But if you turned the
Die
elevator,
hard.
if you turned the power off, it set off an alarm, and the bell rang, and it was really annoying. So turned the ringer off. Got on the phone, because there's a phone that contacts the elevator company and said, hey, I'm stuck in the elevator. And I go, well, it's going to be 4 hours before we can come get you.
Smooth.
Great, because there's 3 other people stuck in L.A. in elevators, and you're number 4. So sorry, you got to wait.
Seems to be a bad
He
thing.
So
didn't
I'm
have-
laying
that
on the
day.
floor on the elevator. There's a slot about this high between the floor of the elevator and the ceiling of the
Next
the
level.
yeah. And it was
I saw this in a
it
movie.
was the 2nd floor, I think.
Yeah.
Was that where the gun guys were, the hunting guys? 2nd floor?
Maybe. Yes, I think
Yeah,
you're right.
2nd
Yeah,
floor.
yeah,
It's all
yeah.
the way down when it's
Set
stuck.
up for a movie. You're going to
So-
come crawling through a crawl
so
space into
He
a
had
room
no
with a lot of
shoes
guns.
on. He didn't have any shoes on, and
so
they
the
shot
hunting
the
guys go,
glass.
This is in the old days when we had flats. Literally
Yes.
had the actual pages of the magazine in a box about this thick that you would carry down to a guy in the parking lot. It was a messenger who would take it to LAX and fly it to Effingham, Illinois
Yes.
to the printing shop.
Crossroads Press.
Crossroads Press. So here, so they come out with their box and they're like, "The hell are you doing here?" It's like stuck in the elevator. Should be obvious. And they go, well, I said, "Can you help me out of here?" And they go, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, here's the issue. I said, I don't just crawl out of here, but I'm afraid that if I get halfway out, then the elevator all of a sudden takes off and slices you right in half, right? So that's like
I've seen that in
not
a movie, too.
good. Yeah. So that wasn't going to work. So they're looking at me going, well, make a decision because we got a book to ship. So we don't really care. There's another elevator here, and we're just going to do our deal, or you can crawl out. So they yanked me out of there, and then I
Wow.
escaped. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's
Yeah.
right. And then
All right, so we should get back to Cadzilla.
anyway, so
Yes.
you're upstairs.
'Cause
We went to a bear on the
digress.
wrong floor.
That's right.
We've digressed. Lots of Petersen stories.
Oh, yeah.
And these are not the colorful ones. The really colorful ones I didn't experience. They happened with John Asher and Kirscher Bob and that.
I had some good
crew.
times at Argus. We had some
I'm sure
very
you
good
did.
times.
Yeah.
Argus.
Now,
was
I've heard
completely-
lots of stories. So anyway, I'm called up now to the 7th floor. I walk in. There's all these management people, and it's a square rectangular table like this. Fred, the president of the company, Wayne Gross, sits there.
Yep. He was a million years old.
John,
He's
he was a million years old
older
at least.
than-
John, Diana, Harry Hibbler, and myself
way older than
on
me.
the editorial side, and then
Even
on
now.
that side of the table was all the management side, which was circulation.
Right.
And for some reason, Lee Kelly was probably at that time would have been the publisher at Motor Trend.
He
editor.
definitely was. Yes, he
Publisher
was.
of Motor Trend.
Yes, because I was working on
So
the custom
like,
books.
why
Yeah.
is Motor Trend here? So Lee's a friend, and Lee had been previous
Lee's
editor of
one
Hot
of
Rod.
the
super
best
guy.
boss I ever had.
Super guy, absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic guy. So, and he's on the management side, which is odd because I would have thought he should.
He's
be
a
on
magazine
editorials.
guy.
He's a magazine guy.
That's where he
he's
came
not
from.
really
Yes. Right.
management style. But anyway, so the circulation people immediately start to attack us because there are so many things wrong with this cover. First of all, it's a black cover. I said, well, actually, no, it's brandy, it's
Right.
candy brandy wine.
Because they're looking,
but
because
it
they're looking
photographs
for
black.
high impact.
It's a custom car.
Yeah.
It's a Cadillac, and it's the back of a custom car. You violated all of the major cover rules, which of course there aren't any written rules. It's just you should know this. The assumption is you should know this. What's wrong with you? And so we start to deliver. It's like, well, it's the most interesting part of the car. And this is a spectacular car. It's going to be, this is going to.
And our readership knows.
They know it's coming.
They know it's coming.
And they're
ZZ
waiting
Top,
for it. And
you've
there's
got the music
ZZ
pole,
Top. There's
right?
all
So
these
you got all these
connections.
things coming through.
No,
Yeah.
we're not changing, and it's too late.
Yeah.
And we've spent tens of thousands of dollars this year. I mean, I
Right.
blew probably a third of my total editorial budget for the entire year on this issue, right? So it's like we loaded up all the dice and just went, we're going for it because this is such a spectacular car. And it's like all the things you just said, ZZ Top, all these other connections.
I can tell you, as a
it'll work.
reader in upstate New York,
You were waiting
your
for it.
impact was
Sure.
exactly
Well,
what
yeah.
you
so
wanted. though.
Right.
so
I was like,
I present all
holy
this
mackerel.
information. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to accept it. And I went, no, you got to change it. It's like, well, change to what? It's too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
a week
Right.
away from shipping this book to the press. What you want me to just throw up on a cover and do it? I mean, what do you want me to do?
What color do you have?
And of course, they don't care about the details of that. Management would say, just fix
Yeah,
it.
right.
And it's like, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that.
Yeah,
And-
you were one of the few. I
and-
give you super credit. You were one of the best editors they ever had. I truly
Amen.
mean that. Not as
As a reader.
not
No,
just
as a
friend.
reader, I
And
agree
as
with
a,
that.
And as a peer or some kind of near peer.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Which is like near beer, but different.
that's right.
That was-
But I
that
mean, I
was
really
Ed
thought
Chubb's
you were an
eloquently
amazing
put.
editor. When I went to Carcraft after you, that was a very tough act to follow.
I'm sure it was.
I mean, it was
Because
you
we
did an awesome
just
job.
I pushed hard. I mean, I don't know if
did
I
a
ever
great
told you
job.
the story. At the end of your column every month, they would have you sign it right at the bottom.
right.
And my managing editor once told me once, she says, Jeff Smith was my signature, and she was mad at me about something because she wanted me to change something, and I wouldn't. Tracy Hirsch used.
Tracy would do that.
And if she's listening, God bless you,
Yeah,
because
who
you
knows
saved
what
us
you-
many times.
Many
But
times.
but
Me
she said
too.
she was mad at me about something. She goes, your signature at the bottom of the line, that doesn't say Jeff Smith.
Yeah.
You know what the staff says it says? I go, no. She says, it says tough shit. I went,
Probably
I'll
did.
take that as a compliment.
Probably
I'll take
did.
that as a compliment.
Probably
I mean,
did.
you have to take charge. So, I'm,
So you
I'm,
told
I'm
them, "I'm not
ambushed.
changing."
I'm
Right.
ambushed at the top of this meeting, and the manager's
Yeah.
going, just change it. We're not, and you just have to fix it.
Right.
And so, we start dancing. It's like, I can't change it. And
Right.
Harry, God bless him, Harry Hibbler was my publisher,
Hand
and he
grenade.
was supporting us. And so he was fully on board with the whole thing. He had been involved with this whole project from the very beginning, and he's supporting me. John, Diana, not so much. Just kind of sitting over there.
What a
waiting,
shock.
Yes.
What a
waiting
shock.
for the political winds to change.
Yeah, he's
right?
seeing how
he's
quote,
measuring
seeing how
which
this
way is the
plays
wind
out.
blowing, right?
Yep.
And so he's not saying anything. He should be supporting us because we're what we are who are making him look good. Right?
He was short on that.
Thank you very much. So, okay, so
John-
it goes
John was,
back and forth,
for
back and
those of
forth,
you
back and
that-
forth.
4'1".
This meeting has
That's
now
right.
gone on for like 15 or 20 minutes, and we're not getting anywhere because they're expecting me to go, yes, sir, whatever you want, 3 bags full.
Sure.
And basically Harry are going, no, we're not doing that. We're sticking with this whole thing.
Right, Harry was with you.
And Harry was with me.
Ah,
and
good.
so he was on my side, but it was just us against the world,
Yeah,
right?
two
and
against
so,
eight,
And
yeah.
Lee's sitting over here, Lee Kelly, sitting over here being very quiet, not
Right.
saying anything. And finally, Mr. Wengrow says, Lee, you're with Motor Trend. You've been with Hot Rod Magazine for a long time. Really haven't heard from you.
Yes, great history.
What do you, and fantastic history,
Yeah.
and they really appreciated what he did, and his input was important. And so all of a sudden I was like, this is it. If he goes, boop, it's like, right
done.
in the Roman times
Yeah,
when the emperor goes, boop, and the guy dies, right? I'm thinking, he does this, I'm going to get a spear right through my chest. Right. And so I'm looking at him and thinking, this is it. This is all the cards are on the table, man. This is going to fly or it's not going to fly. And I have no idea how we're going to fix this if he says, I don't think this is a good idea. And there's a more than better chance that he was going to say no because it violated all of those rules. And Lee says, well, I think you ought to trust your editor and let him run what you want to do. And I was like, So one of the things I like to do is always assemble an engine with ARP bolts, and it's not just because they're sponsors, but because it really does work. And the stuff is fantastic. I never have to worry about it. Steve, you building cars too.
Yeah, actually, it's part of my baseline design plan when I'm building a car that's going to be shown or featured in a magazine. It's part of the plan to have that little bit of diamonds all over the engine bay or in the suspension.
Yeah, the stuff is beautiful. I remember a long time ago, I built the first time I ever touched it, 69 Z28. All of the water jacket holes had stripped out, and I learned about ARP studs.
So check them out at arp-bolts.com or check out their catalog. You'll find everything you're looking for. And the circulation department was livid, absolutely livid.
Which is a good thing.
And, yes, because
we hated those guys.
I never understood that confrontational relationship
it was horrible.
that we always had with them.
And, you know what it was? You know what it was? It was because Nigel thought he was smarter than anybody in the room.
He thought he was smarter than the editors.
He knew exactly. And all he did was he was a data guy. He was a data guy before there were data guys.
Right.
This one did good. This one didn't good. What did these two have?
And if they all had green in them, then that was the answer. There was a green typeface that made it sell. And
there was a little goat in the backyard. It's like, goats. You got to get goats. Where's the next goat? Where's the goat?
So luckily the cover went. So then, and as we all know, it did very, very well. So then flash forward roughly about 2 months before the book comes out on sale. So I don't know if I've ever told you this part of the story.
No.
So
I got something for you
home,
too.
So I go home, and we're working on now 3 months down the road. We're working on a different magazine.
Because that's the cycle. 3 months.
Cycle. I mean, it's like as soon as you finish this one, it's like you don't take a week off. No, you start the next day on the next issue. You're already working on it. You have to overlap them,
and
otherwise you won't survive.
But blank pages.
Yeah,
every month.
And that's the editor's nightmare, by the way, is blank pages. So anyway, so I go home and I'm going to sit in front of the TV, and this is the old days where we're going to date ourselves again. Well, this is 1989, so this is remember MTV. And the guy named Kurt Lauder had a little news program called The World News, and he had this little fake planet.
Yes,
Earth,
I remember it. I remember it well.
Over his shoulder. Yeah, and so I'm just channel flipping, and it's like MTV was
in its infancy.
Actually had music videos on it.
Yeah, and
At
so
that
I thought,
time.
well, I'll watch this for a second.
changed.
There's nothing else on. I'll just watch this for a second, before I get attacked for some reason at home for you have to fix these 3 things. And Kurt Lauder says, he goes through a couple of news snippets, and then all of a sudden he picks up this issue of Hot Rod Magazine with ZZ Top on the cover, and goes, the guys from ZZ Top have a car on the cover of Hot Rod Magazine, and I'm like scurrying to try and get a
picture.
Date us again, a VHS in the machine to record this thing, right? And I missed it. I totally missed it because the one I picked already had a little piece of tape over it, so it wouldn't record. And I was like,
"What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I have no idea about this technology.
Yes, okay. Yeah, it's ancient technology. Right after audio cassettes, right?
Right.
So it's like going to the office the next day. I go, "We were on MTV," and I go, "No, you weren't." But it was one of, if not the best selling cover ever.
I'm not surprised.
Which violated every rule on the planet as far as cars were concerned. Car magazines were concerned.
But you had something going
but
for
the
you.
subject matter was so good.
It was super cool, and it was car guys.
Did you ever see the slogan?
So it didn't
that was-
matter.
And then it was the centerfold on the inside as well.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
which really was and to give Randy Lawrence credit, the photography was
Beautiful.
spectacular.
Beautiful.
It was very expensive, and I heard about it later. When all the bills finally came
Yeah.
afterwards,
Oh,
and
yeah.
John Dinah comes to my office and starts screaming at me for spending a third of my budget. It's like, dude, it was worth it. We hadn't got the sales numbers yet, and And then when you hit those home runs, everything else is forgotten,
Yep.
you know, because you did
bet.
what you were supposed to do. Because we were evaluated literally every month
Should have
by
had
how
another
well you
meeting up by
said.
the
You bet.
polar bear and
How
said,
well
well, how'd
you-
we do, kids?
Right.
Huh?
How
How'd we
well you
do?
did on the cover every
bet.
month. So you get your sales numbers about a month after it
Right.
went on sale, and then you lived and died by those numbers.
Did you ever see the slogan that was in Lee Kelly's office the entire time I worked for them? When I started in '80, when I was at Hot Rod, I went to Argus for 5 years, came back, Carcraft, and then obviously worked for him again for another decade. And in his office, he had this thing that was stuck on his wall. It was a saying, and it said, "Find an editor with vision and let him go."
Yes.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what it said. And
Yep.
you walk in any time, and that's what it was. So that's true to form.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the way Lee was.
And that's what it was. And that's, really on a
That's
grander
called
level.
hiring somebody with talent and letting them use.
Yes.
And then
That's why
trusting
you
them.
hired them.
And
Yes.
trusting them to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in our case, I don't know if it was necessarily that prescient as much as it was. I was at the right place
Right.
at the right time
Right.
with a good group of people who were spectacularly good at what they did.
Right.
And all you did, because I did the same thing with them. Each of those guys, like Gray Baskerville, was fantastic at the things that he did.
Yes.
So you let him do those
Yes.
things. You didn't try and make him do something he wasn't good at, because he wouldn't be able to deliver
Right.
for you. So you don't ask him to do that. But the feature stuff and that kind of stuff. There's a whole other story about a managing editor one time came in my office, or a copy editor came in and said, Gray Baskerville, he made this word up. Well, yeah, he did.
That's great.
Well, it's not in the AP style. It's a made up word. You can't use that. It's like, sure you can. Well, why can't? Where does it say I can't? But you just don't.
Right.
I said, yeah, and this went on and on and on and on. Finally, I told her, I said, you really should reconsider maybe a
Right.
different job, because this is not working out for you, because we're not changing what Gray does, because
Right.
Gray makes this magazine.
Right.
Someone asked me a long time ago what my influences were when I when I went to journalism school and became a writer. It's like, who, do you have your writing influence? Oh yeah, absolutely. Tom Wolfe,
Yeah.
who did the right stuff and
Yeah,
the
sure.
Varieties of Ball, and all this stuff, and Gray Baskerville.
Right.
And the
Shrunk and
person
White.
they're like polar opposite people.
That's
They're
right.
like, first guy
That's
I know who
right.
that is, but
Yeah.
who is Gray Baskerville?
That's
And I
right.
said, well, if you don't read Hot Rod magazine,
right.
you wouldn't know. But
Old
if you did,
granddad.
you would read Hot Rod and you would know. And
Yes.
Dad was the
Yeah.
he was
It's all
he
read.
was
Yes.
he was all read.
That's right.
Like he would walk by my office. This has usually happened right after Bonneville. Yeah, if you don't know who Gray Baskerville is, he was probably in his early 60s at this time, late 50s, early 60s.
Been writing for Hot Rod
Been
for
writing
a
for
long
magazine
time and
since
very
the-
colorful.
Very colorful.
Had his
and-
own vocabulary.
Yes,
he did.
And would make words up, and it was just spectacular, and a really good writer. And he walked by my office, and all of a sudden I saw him stick his head back in and go, and then walk away.
I had a similar deal. I was the new guy at Hot Rod, and it was like 1980 or something. And I'm sitting at my desk, and Gray goes by, and then he comes back and he tucks his head back. He goes, "Are you married?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, I have a niece." and then he goes, "Well, maybe I'll introduce you." And then he leaves, and then he comes back and he goes, "Are you Mormon?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, forget it." So that was quick.
We could do Petersen's stories
Or there'd be
forever.
just Gray stories.
Because Gray
Yes.
stories.
So,
Yes.
so as a reader, because obviously these guys were the people making the print that I grew up reading, and Gray was a huge. I loved reading his stuff because he was so colorful with how he'd write and his words. Thank God you didn't modify his words. And I knew. Like one of them with "It's so bitchin',"
So
right?
bitchin'.
And so here I am with my '66 Charger on Power Tour. I unveiled it on Power Tour. I talked about it earlier. Creating that car, and we were in Tinley Park, Illinois, and Jeff Smith was setting up for the photo shoot. We went and shot the main, front and rear 3/4 shots over at this, it's kind of like a loading dock area.
Okay.
And then we brought it back over to the whatever fairgrounds we were that night under a tree to do engine shots and interior shots, get it out of harsh light.
Right.
And so I'm standing there and Jeff's, clicking away on the engine and the interior, and Gray comes tooling
Bopping
by.
over.
Comes botting by. And he
flip-flops.
And it sandals ahoy. And he comes over and he looks and he just has that, that grin.
The grin.
And just puts his hands in his pockets. And I go, what do you think? He goes, it's tube bitching. And I'm like, I can die. I just got a tube bitching from Gray Baskerville.
Right.
It's all okay now.
Yes.
I am now officially certified, but whatever that means.
And,
he was so cool.
The thought that popped into my head was we could probably do another podcast on the characters in the industry, because there are so many of them. That could go on forever, probably.
Yeah, that could go on forever.
But you could pick out the more colorful ones, and
there were some good ones.
Or in my case,
well, it's just like racing. It's very versatile. I mean, the different personalities of.
Oh yeah.
Back when CarCraft was more of a drag racing magazine than it was a street machine magazine, so the 70s, certainly late 60s all the way through the 70s, then they had something called Fast Talk, and it was my favorite part of the magazine because I would go to Fast Talk first. It was in the back of the book, and it was just quotes from drag racers, and a classic one like and it was attributed to an anonymous source, but it says, and then when the manufacturer said he'd take a check, I ordered 3 more sets of pistons. And it's like, and that was every month. It was like that. What causes loose? Bang bang causes loose. So there's, I should maybe I did a list a long time ago of my favorite, like the 20,
had a whole bunch of them.
sayings from from Fast
Did they
Talk.
do a special issue with some of that stuff? They did some elapsed times and some other stuff. Yeah. That was a pretty good deal.
As the entry level, wet behind the ears staffer, they immediately gave me etc. And you had to be funny.
Yes.
And we had some fun.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, I didn't quit my day job.
There you go. Good idea. Good idea.
So anyway, that
at the Chrysler dealer?
Yes, yeah. Because I always go back there and be a Chrysler mechanic. So this is just one story of hundreds that we could talk about.
Absolutely.
And if there's enough interest in this kind of stuff, we could dredge up a bunch more. Because I'm sure Cam's got a lot that he could talk about. The things that you you learn, and the things you learn not to do, and the things you learn that will be positive and might actually enhance my career, and others that would be absolute career suicide. And sometimes you get a few of those career suicide ones and got away with it, but it's very rare. It's very rare.
You bet.
And it's neat as the reader. Like I said, I ate, breathed, and slept my hot rod. Mm-hmm. I literally did. It's like the only thing I looked forward to every month. And when I was traveling and playing in the band, that was backstage with me. This was my hot rod. Yeah. And so to be on the other side of it and hear about what even happened for that cover that I hold so dear because I just loved it and I love that car. Yeah. To hear that's it's so interesting. It puts a different dynamic
and
on it.
And we had no way of knowing, but at the same time you did know. We did know this was special, this was important, and it was worth the. I remember at one point
got to drive it.
Yes.
Bastard.
So I mean, at one point it was starting to get heated in this meeting, and at one point, because this happened a couple times, talk about career suicide kind of movements. But at one point, it was something was said on the other side, and I literally started to come out of my chair. Yeah. And Harry was sitting to my right, and he put his hand on my knee. And I was like, don't do that.
Adolf kicked me, literally kicked me in the shin when we had a conversation about why the color changed on the masthead of CarCraft when it was John Diana who did it. And then it was like, oh, correct, Fred. They're right. That did. I don't know how that would have happened. It's like, you got to be kidding.
Yeah. So it's like the kick under the table. Yeah, the same thing. So there's 100 stories like this. We could do more of them if you're interested in listening more of this. It's just a couple of guys talking about what happened to them in the past, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. You get a peek behind the curtain of what goes on the other side of the magazine. But I hope you enjoyed this, and if you do, listen up, and we'll do this again soon.